Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, joining us via the various social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and also via the Dr. Fundi platform. Welcome. We appreciate you, spending your 1 hour with us. Today, we are going to be discussing a topic that has been quite controversial, in the social media, streets, I'll say in the streets of social media, Facebook, Twitter, and all of that. It's an issue that, I felt needed due attention from somebody who understands, from a scientific level, what we're talking about, because all of a sudden, we have a lot of people who are experts when it comes to matters that they really have not gone to school to be able to comprehend. Now, as I was preparing for this meeting, I came across an article in the Daily Maverick, which was sort of talking about the same issue, whereby we are in the information age. We are in an age where everybody has access to information. There's democracy of information. But having said that, there's one thing to have access to information, but it's another to have the ability to actually process that information to make sense about it. So whilst we all have access to information, but possessing the ability to understand it is not something that everybody has. You must have at least spent some time behind the desk in that particular field to have the deeper understanding of some of these things. So just to quote from the Daily Maverick, it says, "Indeed, in this age of lay expert, but having access to information is not the same as possessing the ability to understand it. If anything, 21st century societies have become fragile precisely because we have unfettered access to the matrix, which, like maize or the N95 face mask, have become a commodity. The pimping of information is not a new phenomenon, but it has massively accelerated by the advent of social media." So as we are tackling this topic today, and the topic today is about the link between COVID-19 pandemic and the 5G technology. So many people have been, forwarding and sharing information from people who believe that there's an association. And so I decided that let me ask my younger brother, Mcebisi Langa Nyati, who is a qualified electronics engineer with over 15 years experience within the telecom space, and specifically within the radio part of it. That is, he is an engineer, but he's played a role in the radio engineering part of telecoms, starting as a junior engineer, leading teams, leading operations for the biggest cell phone provider in this country, and also being deployed to actually go and roll out the same in places like Lesotho, where he did a great job. So I thought it would be important to have somebody of his caliber, because from the very first job he had at Centec, he was dealing with these matters. That was around 94, if I'm not mistaken. And spent time there at Centec dealing with these matters, dealing with the issues of safety and everything when it comes to radio waves. And he has also spent, you know, the bulk of his working life within Vodacom. Like I said, as a junior engineer, you know, dealing with radio, you know, the radio waves and all of that, up the operations, where still 90% of his responsibility was to deal with the matters that have to do with what we're talking about. And then, you know, so later he ventured into some entrepreneurial, you know, ventures. And at this moment, he is based in the Eastern Cape, where he is also running a foundation that is actually trying to get young people to understand technology. He's volunteering his time to teach them maths and science, and he's also driving, you know, innovation, teaching them, you know, something called, okay, I'll mention it, you know, a little later. So basically, we have somebody who I think is appropriately qualified to give us a view around this issue. But because both our parents were teachers, we don't believe that we should just get to the answer, you know, is 5G, you know, the cause of coronavirus, what. We need to take people through understanding, you know, the history of electromagnetic, you know, radiation, and move all the way 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and get to the actual issue that we are here about. So that maybe when people get those kind of, you know, chain stuff that's being sent through, they can at least interrogate it with a little bit of understanding. So, Mr. Mcebisi Nyathi, welcome to the Dr. Fundi channel. I wish I was there in Tabase, because I'm sure there's more freedom there than what we have here in Johannesburg. But anyway, welcome to our channel. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Fundi. It's my pleasure to be invited and participate in your channel. And also, I would like to say good afternoon to your audience as well. Yes, the topic. Yes, okay. The topic.
No, I wanted to just. All right, I just wanted to just lay out what the conspiracy theory is, so that then you can take us from there. Is that fine?
No, yes. That's fine.
Yes. The conspiracy theory, many of those who are sharing these posts are pushing a conspiracy theory, you know, that claims that 5G, which is used in mobile phone networks and relies on signals carried by the radio waves, is somehow responsible for the coronavirus. The theories appear to have first emerged via Facebook late in January, and since then we've seen lots of that. They appear to fall broadly into two camps. One camp claims that 5G can suppress the immune system, thus making people more susceptible to catching the virus. The other one suggests that the virus can somehow be transmitted through the use of 5G technology. All right? And so that is the issue that we want to put to bed today. That's why I've invited somebody who is an expert on this matter. So I'll just call you Zoreyo, because to call you with your full name, it doesn't come naturally. So Zoreyo, we are here to talk about this 5G conspiracy theory. However, let's start from the beginning. Just educate us a little bit about the history of electromagnetic waves and stuff.
All right.
Because
yes.
as I was preparing, I picked up that, you know, there's a lot that happened from the late 18-somethings, you know, to the early 1900s, you know, building to today. Can you just take us through there?
All right. Actually, I would say we can attribute a a specific scientist who was a Scottish scientist, who really, I would say, we owe our understanding of electromagnetic radiation in terms of the studies that he did and the discoveries that he made. This scientist was called James Clerk Maxwell. He was actually born in 1831, and he passed on at a very young age, actually, in 1879. I think he was 48 or 49 years old at the time that he passed on, and yet his contribution to science stood almost at the same level as the like of Sir Isaac Newton or Albert Einstein. So this is the gentleman who gave us our understanding of electromagnetic radiation. The key thing that he actually did was that already there was an understanding of what electricity is at the time. Yes. In the same way that there was an understanding of what magnetism is during that time. However, what was not understood, which is what he then established through his publications or studies, was that actually electricity and magnetism can actually work together to produce what is called electromagnetic radiation. In fact, there's what is called Maxwell's equations, which is about 4, I would say, to simplify it, it's about 4 equations. I'll just wish you to indulge me, to let me just explain in very simple terms as to what those Maxwell's equations were all about. The first thing was to give us a little bit of insight onto the nature of electricity, whereby he actually indicated that actually electricity is actually dipole in nature. What does that mean? It means that there's basically 2 charges that constitute what is known as electricity. What we have arbitrarily labeled as a negative charge, and what we've also arbitrarily labeled as a positive charge. By the way, there's nothing positive about a positive charge, nor is there anything negative about a negative charge. It's just a label that we provided. All right. So, but what is key is that positive charges, they tend to repel each other. Negative charges, they repel each other. However, positive and negative attract each other. So an example of an electrically charged particle would be, for instance, an electron, and an example of a positively charged charge would be a proton. All right. So he also then outlined for us that there is what is called an electric field, which originates on a positive electric charge and terminates on a negative electric charge. So that is one of the first, should I say, finding that he came up with. The second one was around magnetism, where he again identified that magnetism was of a dipole nature. Again, with a arbitrarily labeled North Pole and an arbitrarily labeled South Pole for magnetism. Again, you notice that a North Pole and a North Pole reject, they kind of repel each other, and the South Pole and the South Pole reject each other. However, North and South attract. Again, you've got what are called magnetic field lines. However, in this time around, the magnetic field lines are actually continuous. They have no beginning and no end. They actually make a closed loop between the North and the South Pole. So that was the second finding that he came up with. The third one was that if you have a moving electric charge, or you've got a changing electric field, that actually generates a magnetic field. So you see now you are linking electricity with magnetism. A moving electric charge or a changing electric field generates a magnetic field. And then the fourth finding that he came up with was that a changing magnetic field induces an electric field. So how does all of this link to electromagnetism? Now imagine this scenario. You've got a changing electric field, or you've got a moving electric charge, which then generates a magnetic field. However, that magnetic field, if it's also changing, it will also generate an electric field. So you have a situation where an electric field generates a magnetic field, and the magnetic field generates an electric field. And you can have this situation perpetuating itself. So the ultimate result of that, you can actually then have what is called an electromagnetic field, which is established by the interaction of these two fields, the electric and the magnetic field, each one generating each other, and in the process producing a radiation or a field, which is called an electromagnetic field, which, by the way, travels at what is called the speed of light. So one of the things that he actually established was that, in actual fact, light, as we know it, visible light, that is also an electromagnetic field. So what it means, what we see as light is actually constituted in exactly the same way as what you would know as radio waves, or what you would know as gamma rays or X-rays, or anything that is labeled as an electromagnetic radiation. So he actually established a link between light and other forms of electromagnetic radiation. And then, just to complete this whole story then, again, in 1887, you had a German physicist by the name of Rudolf Hertz, who then demonstrated the reality of Maxwell's electromagnetic waves in his laboratory. Because remember, Maxwell, he did a theoretical study. However, Hertz then actually proved the theories of Maxwell in his own laboratory. So for his outstanding work, he was then, should I say, his name was honored by then using his name as a measure, as a unit of measure for what is called the frequency of a wave, right? Which is a hertz. So you will hear people talking about megahertz, gigahertz, or kilohertz. So that hertz at the end was actually the name of Hertz, for whom he was then given the honor, to use his name as a measure for, the unit of measuring the frequency of a wave. And when we speak of frequency of a wave, all we are talking about is the number of cycles an oscillation makes within a second. That's simply what it means. So if you're saying, for instance, a particular wave has got 100 kilohertz frequency, all you are saying is that it makes 100 cycles within a second. So that's what 100 kilohertz mean. And if you are saying a megahertz, you are simply saying that that particular wave is making 1,000,000 cycles in a second. Or if you are saying a gigahertz, you are saying that particular wave is making 1,000 million cycles within a second. So I thought maybe we should kind of, give that little bit of background. Of course, this whole thing was then brought into commercial use in the form of radio communication around the year 1900, which is then exactly, things developed technologically to the extent where we are. So that's basically the brief history around electromagnetic radiation. Of course, electromagnetic radiation, like any other wave, have got characteristics. So some of those characteristics, it would just be important to kind of highlight them. From high school, some of you may remember that you had something called transverse waves and longitudinal waves. By the way, electromagnetic radiation is what is called a transverse wave, whereas sound would be what would be called a longitudinal wave. And you also have got something called a property of a wave, which is called a wavelength, which is measured in meters. This is basically the distance between, two, should I say, 2 points in a complete cycle in terms of the oscillation of a wave. That would be called a wavelength, measured in meters. And you also have got what is called a frequency, I've already indicated, measured in hertz, which is basically the number of complete cycles that that particular wave will make in a second. And also, a wave has got a speed, which is measured in meters per second. And there again, that is simply the speed that that wave takes in propagating itself in space, which is measured in meters per second. And then also, obviously, a wave carries energy. That unit of measuring, the energy of a wave is exactly the same unit that is used everywhere, a joule. But however, there is also another unit which is called an electron volt, which is used to measure small energies as to what you would find in a, should I say, in a quantum of a wave. So of an electromagnetic wave. So those are just the few, should I say, properties of a wave that I wanted to highlight, which will come in handy as we have this discussion going forward.
Yeah. Okay. So you've given us that history. You've given us the basics, the measurements of these things, because as I was looking at what is called the electromagnetic spectrum, I was seeing frequency, I was seeing meters, millimeters, or whatever per second, but it didn't make sense to me. So at least you have helped to clear that kind of information with me. Now, let's get to the issue of electromagnetic spectrum. Can you just, because ultimately we're going to 5G, but there is a spectrum, from the left to the right, from safe to dangerous. So take us through that.
Okay. Now, if we look at the whole spectrum of electromagnetic radiation, the spectrum is really defined from the point of view that electromagnetic radiation, varies in frequency from the lowest frequencies, a few kilohertz, going all the way up to the highest frequencies in gigahertz and beyond, right?
Yeah.
But now what you will notice is that at certain frequency ranges, you've got certain characteristics of that electromagnetic radiation, which would then be classified by a particular name. For instance, at the very lowest frequencies, you would be having what is called the long radio waves, right? And then followed by radio waves, which are used in radio communication, followed by microwaves, followed by infrared. After infrared, then you will be having what is called visible light. After visible light, you've got ultraviolet. After ultraviolet, you've got X-rays, and then you've got gamma rays going upwards. So as from the way that I'm actually indicating it, from the first one to the last one that I indicated, we are actually increasing in frequency, which, by the way, also means that we are actually decreasing in terms of wavelength, because the two are actually, should I say, inversely proportional. When you are increasing frequency, you are reducing the wavelength. When you are increasing wavelength, you are reducing frequency, right? So the way that I put it then, from the beginning to the end of what I indicated, shows that we were increasing in frequency. So what you will notice then is that certain frequencies have been established to be useful for particular technological use. For instance, if you are talking about frequencies in the megahertz range, you will notice that they would then be used for things like FM and AM communication, and also used for what was known or is still known as GSM 2G. Just to give an indication there, GSM 2G, for instance, in our implementation here in South Africa, it was in the 900 megahertz range and the 1800 megahertz range. That is what was allocated for the use of GSM 2G, right? And then you also have got 3G. There's an allocation for 3G as well, an allocation for 4G, and an allocation for 5G. We're gonna get into that, right? But what is, I would say, critical is that at some point, as the frequencies go up, at some point, some of the frequencies become dangerous in terms of human exposure. in the sense that when they interact with the biology of a human being, and for that matter, let me say when they interact with molecules, they influence those molecules in the sense that when they strike that molecule, they have the ability that they can make that molecule to lose an electron. Now, you will remember, for those who have studied physics in high school, that a molecule or an atom that has lost an electron then becomes positively charged. Then it becomes what is known as an ion, right? So when we speak of ionizing radiation, we are therefore saying that that radiation, when it strikes a particular molecule, it makes it to lose an electron or electrons, and then it remains a positively charged molecule, which is then an ion. And then, of course, that from a biological perspective can be very dangerous in the sense that perhaps it can actually change the structure of that molecule. And if maybe we are talking about a molecule like DNA, it would compromise then the DNA integrity, such that then you could have defects in terms of cell replication for that cell that has got that damaged DNA. So that, in essence, is what we know as ionizing radiation that has got that kind of an effect. Whereas non-ionizing radiation does not have any of that effect, right? Which is the lower frequencies. In fact, the cutoff point is sitting at around, ultraviolet. In the ultraviolet range, somewhere in the middle of the ultraviolet range, you start to have frequencies becoming ionizing frequencies, right? But below that range, they are actually harmless, right? So you've got ionizing radiation above the halfway point of ultraviolet, and you've got non-ionizing from the halfway point of ultraviolet going down. Now, the frequencies that have been used for communication, starting from 2G all the way up to 5G, they are still safely within what is called the non-ionizing range. Don't know whether maybe you've got a question that you'd like to ask me at that point.
No. I think you're going with us very, very well. You're going with us because what I'm understanding you saying is that from FM, that's part of the lowest frequencies, and
Yes.
then you've got your GSM, and then you have your 2G, 3G, 4G, you've got your visible light. That's still non-ionizing, but up until the middle of the UV rays, then we start having problems. So
Correct.
the issue we are here to talk about, which is the 5G, it sounds like it is in the non-ionizing range, if I'm a good student.
Correct. No, you are correct. You are correct. Let me just give an indication here about the issues of spectrum allocation for 5G. Maybe before I mention that, I need to give an indication first that the issue of allocation of spectrum is not something that anybody can just wake up and decide that I will use a particular spectrum for a particular technology that I'm working on. No, it doesn't happen that way. I think everybody knows the United Nations. The United Nations does have a specialized agency, which is called the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union. Now, the ITU is responsible. It actually has got should I say, a division, which is called the ITUR. Now, the ITUR is responsible for the global management of the radio frequency spectrum, which includes the allocation of spectrum and the registration of the frequency allocations. So you wouldn't just wake up on a particular day and say, I want to use a particular spectrum. It must be a spectrum that the ITU has allocated to be used for that particular technology. As we speak right now, the ITU has not yet fully finalized the spectrum that will be used for 5G. However, around October, November last year, there was what they know as the World Radio Communication Conference that took place in Egypt by the ITU, where then all the global stakeholders of the ITU were actually discussing and came to some consensus as to which spectrum should be used for the 5G technology. So the frequency bands that then seem to again should I say the favor of most of the stakeholders within that conference, where the frequency bands above 24 gigahertz, in particular, great interest was shown in the 26 gigahertz range, 40 gigahertz range, and the 66 gigahertz range, right? Those were the ones that were identified that they would be used for 5G. There was also frequency ranges below the 1 gigahertz range, between 1 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz, that they were also identified as those frequency ranges that would be used for 5G. I would not say that that matter has now been completely finalized, but things are pointing in the direction that those are going to be the frequency spectrums that are going to be allocated by the ITU in terms of use for 5G.
Okay. All right. Now, just a question there, Zorayo. What you are saying is that allocation of spectrum within that range, whether it was 3G or 4G or 5G, we're talking 5G now, it is something that is done, authorized by an international body that is part of the United Nations. Meaning an individual country cannot just wake up and actually say, I'm going to use 5G now, if it had not yet been allocated. Am I right?
You are right, but however, there is just a nuance that I would like to point out. Yeah. That what I've outlined already is the global perspective in terms of managing spectrum. However, yes, the individual countries, each and every country has got a regulator of spectrum. If we're speaking of South Africa, for instance, we've got ICASA, which is our spectrum regulator, right? I think it was formerly known as SATRA. Now, because South Africa is a member of the UN, and South Africa is actually part of the ITU, obviously then ICASA is a participant in the ITU. Yes. So how it manages spectrum allocation in South Africa is going to be harmonized with the standards that were agreed to by the ITU. Same thing if we speak about a country which is extremely innovative, like for instance, China. When China implements their 5G technology, they will make sure that their implementation of 5G is harmonized with the ITU standards, because I mean, obviously anybody, when they manufacture, a telecommunications infrastructure or equipment, they are not just looking at the local market. They are also looking at ensuring that their equipment can be sold, globally. So therefore, it becomes important that what you produce must be globally interoperable. And the one way of ensuring that you are globally interoperable is by making sure that you are harmonized with the global standards that everybody else is working with. So okay. I think maybe that's the issue I wanted to highlight.
Yes. Now, okay. Again, just for the benefit of people like me who are lay in your space, So what is special about this 5G compared to 4G, compared to 3G? I mean, we keep on hearing 1, 2, 3. Is it like a Golf 1 and a Golf 2 and a Golf 3 and a Golf 4? You know, I'm sure it's about performance and safety. That's why, you know, at a car level. But in this space, these 1s and the 2s and the 3s and the 4s, and now we're talking 5, like, why all of this?
Well, the reason why you've got this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm sure there will be a 6 going all the way. It's simply the evolution of technology. For instance, when you speak of 2G, when I joined the telecommunications industry, we were still in the phase of 2G, right? There, we were obviously talking about primarily communication via voice and SMS.
Yeah.
The capabilities for data were extremely limited, right? But now, what happened was, due to the success of 2G, it became apparent that there is need to transmit data on a mobile telephony infrastructure. So people started innovating. And then the ITU came with new standards for transmitting faster data on a mobile telecommunications network. Right.
Yeah.
Then you got what was called 3G. Okay. Now, so I would say the changes that happened, they were more dramatic from the evolution from 2G to 3G, because the whole network architecture changed somewhat dramatically. However, when we are moving from 3G to 4G to 5G, then the network architecture doesn't change as dramatic. What actually changes is what is called the access network. What do we mean by access network? By access network, we mean that part of the network that is used to connect the end user to the network infrastructure. In the case of mobile telephony implementations, that is normally wireless. So the first should I say, mobile telephony solution that tried to address the issue of data was actually what was called 2.5G, which gave us what was called GPRS. And then we got 3G, which was relatively good in terms of speed, but it had its own limitations. People were not satisfied. We moved to 4G and then we moved to 5G. So what I'm really trying to say here is that what is actually changing then from 3G, 4G, 5G is mostly the access network, whereas the core network remains virtually, not strictly, but it remains kind of the same in terms of architecture. But what is changing is the access network. You are simply coming up with better means of transmitting more data wirelessly. So you have 3G there. And then somebody else thinks that maybe if we can improve of our methods of transmitting data via wireless, then we can come up with a new implementation called 4G. And then again, somebody innovates even further, and then we've got 5G. So there isn't anything that is particularly dramatic about the move from 3G, 4G, 5G. But however, what is changing is the spectrum on which it works, and obviously also the technology, or should I say the methodologies of transmitting data, which improves as we go 3G, 4G, 5G.
Yeah.
So if, for instance, somebody were to say to me that 5G causes COVID virus, then I would say to them, how did we miss having the COVID virus during the 2G, or sorry, during the 3G or 4G era? Because there is nothing that is significantly different about 3G, 4G and 5G, except that you are using different spectrum and the methodologies for transmitting data are improving, and therefore you are having very high speeds. So the whole logic of saying 5G can cause COVID, it doesn't make sense, because we had these radio methods for transmitting data wirelessly. We already have them from 3G. Why did we not have COVID then? Why are we? What is so special about 5G that it would cause COVID that it did not cause during 3G or 4G? So it just becomes nonsensical in my view.
Yeah, yes. So other people, when they talk about this 5G, they talk about next generation something. What is that?
Well,
next generation telecoms or something.
Well, I think people can use that kind of a label on 5G, in the sense that it is obviously an improvement from 4G, what we knew as LTE. It is an improvement from 4G without any doubt, both in what is called latency. Now, latency, to put it very, very simply, I would say it's the delay that happens as you transmit data, from one side to another. Let's say, for instance, as we are now having this video conference or this video communication between you and I, you would see the effects of latency if, for instance, I speak and then I wait for you to receive my communication. Only after a delay of a few seconds, you can actually receive my communication. And then you speak on your side, and then I have to wait for a few seconds before your communication gets to me. That's latency. So that is still something that is still experienced with 4G technology, with LTE. However, 5G promises that it's going to significantly reduce latency, such that you are then able to implement real-time applications better, because the latency is significantly reduced. And of course, one of the advantages that would make people label 5G in the manner that you've indicated now is the fact that 5G has got much faster speeds compared to 4G. I think it is said that it will give about 10 times improvement from what was capable with 4G. And so with this kind of capabilities, it then opens up another room completely of new applications that can actually be implemented via 5G that were perhaps not possible via 4G. We're talking, for instance, about things like virtual reality implementations, which was things that were not really possible within 4G, but perhaps are going to be very much possible with 5G.
Okay, so all right, so you've given us all this foundation as we were building up to the issues of health and safety. We'll talk specifically COVID. You've already touched on it, but we'll get back to it. But also other general, health issues. So you've got your ITU there that is sitting within the UN. When it comes to matters of health and safety, who looks after that aspect? Is it still ITU or is it somebody else?
Well, there is actually an independent body, which is called ICNIRP. It's also based in Geneva.
What is it called?
It's ICNIRP. That's ICNIRP.
Okay.
Right. So ICNIRP, its sole purpose in life is to look at the effects of radiation, the harmful effects of radiation, and then basically come up with safety standards that will protect both the users of services as well as people in an operational environment. who are exposed to electromagnetic radiation. So those safety standards, if they are followed to the T, then people can be guaranteed that they will not experience any harmful effects. So starting all the way from the 2G era, I remember when it was still the 2G era, and we were moving from the 900 megahertz frequency band to the 1800 frequency band. People were up in arms, indicating that they don't want to see any deployment of base stations in their areas, because base stations are going to cause ill health to them. They're going to cause things like cancers and stuff. Yeah. You then found that network operators at the time had to then go to the ICNEP and study what the ICNEP recommendations were in terms of deploying network infrastructure to make sure that the network was actually deployed according to those safety standards. And so it has been just been a standard practice by network operators to deploy their networks according to the ICNEP standards on safety. Yes. For instance, right now, ICNEP has got their latest recommendations on safety. I think they are dated March 2020. So they are as latest as March 2020. And they include exposure to the frequency spectrum that is used by 5G. So those recommendations are latest in the sense that they encompass 5G, right? Yes. So I have full confidence that in following those standards, those safety standards, people will always remain safe. As it was during the 2G era, it will still be during the 5G era, as long as we don't get to the point where we start using frequencies that are in the ionizing radiation space. Then yes, obviously things are going to change. As long as we are still using frequencies below, the ionizing radiation frequency space, we are still safe. So the body that is responsible for doing the studies is called ICNEP. And I think most network operators, they rely on their safety standards.
Mm. So basically, just coming back to the point that the ICN-IRP is actually responsible for issues of health and safety. As I was going through another article before this, transmission, it's an article that appeared, on the BBC. It was a review of, all these, question marks around 5G. What they said was earlier this year, a long-running study from the Watchdog, the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, rebutted these claims, saying there was no evidence that mobile networks cause cancer or other illnesses. And the trade body, Mobile UK, also said these are false rumors and theories that link 5G and the coronavirus. And these were concerning, whilst the Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport in the UK also reiterated that there is absolutely no credible evidence for the link. They went further to say viruses invade human and animal cells and use them to reproduce, which is what causes an infection. Viruses cannot live very long outside a living thing. So they have to find a way, usually via droplets of liquid from cough and sneezes. Genome sequencing of this coronavirus suggests it jumped from animals to humans and then began to pass from human to human. So what they're basically saying is that the theories that are being peddled about 5G being responsible for the emergence of SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that is causing the pandemic, are basically baseless. All right, and there are a number of scientists that have said that. And I mean, if the body that is responsible for issues of safety with regards to non-ionizing radiations, they have studied this in depth, with collaborators throughout the world, and they have come to an answer that there is no basis. Now, if that is the case, what do you think is the reason for the peddling of these kind of, conspiracy theories around 5G and its link to the current pandemic that we're all going through?
Well, I think to put it simpler, I would say perhaps it's some form of hysteria based on the unknown situation that we're experiencing right now, which is the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario would be if, for whatever reason, there might be, in the form of, how would I put this? There would be some form of industrial, when maybe countries are kind of fighting each other.
Yeah.
Yes, are fighting each other, because maybe a particular country has become dominant in a particular technology like 5G, and therefore the other one may feel a bit threatened by the dominance of that particular country, and so would try to neutralize the dominance of the other by then spreading, things that are scientifically baseless, but maybe for the men on the street, they would not necessarily, be able to see through, so that maybe the take off the take on of that particular technology can be a little bit dampened down. I that's the worst case scenario that I'm thinking of. Yes.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this virus or the pandemic started in China. A big finger is obviously pointing at China. In these conspiracy theories, the big finger is pointing at China. China that seems to have a head start when it comes to this 5G technology, and specifically Huawei as the biggest thing there. Now, when cell phones came to South Africa, just after the first elections in '94, you had Motorola. My understanding is that Motorola comes from the US.
Correct.
You then had also Ericsson, which comes from Sweden.
Yes.
And Huawei was not yet, in the top two. Can you just maybe just quickly tell us what has happened, from the time cell phones came here to where we are? Because I no longer see a Motorola cell phone. Even the Ericsson itself, I no longer say it, but that could be a different matter when it comes to infrastructure.
Yes. Okay. From an infrastructure point of view, I will speak from, for instance, the time that I joined the mobile telecommunication space, which was in 1998. In 1998, the dominant players in South Africa, as an example, which I think was kind of representative across the world. The dominant players in South Africa, for instance, were Motorola in terms of infrastructure. It was also Ericsson, and also it was the likes of Siemens. Right, those are some of the dominant players in South Africa, and I think generally across the world, it looked kind of like that.
Yeah.
What then happened was that was the 2G era.
Yeah.
Now, what happened was that as we started to move towards the 3G era, new players came into the picture. In particular, players coming in from China. Players that were not known before. They started moving in. I'm talking here about the likes of Huawei. Of course, in the beginning, they were ridiculed that, it's a Hong Kong network. Of course, they were cheap, but man, you cannot build a network using such a Hong Kong infrastructure. So you found that across the world, people were very skeptical of adopting the Huawei infrastructure around that time. However, I think through their persistence, they eventually managed to convince network operators across the world that they were actually a very good player. And they were not just convincing from a commercial perspective, but they were convincing from the point of view that their infrastructure was actually performing according to the claims that they were making. You could actually then be able to deploy, for instance, a Huawei network-based network at cheaper than you would based on Motorola infrastructure or Ericsson infrastructure. So ultimately, the network operators bought into the Huawei offering, as an example. And so around the 3G era, things started to change. You then had the Motorola's of this world being completely swapped out and replaced by Huawei equipment. You had even, because at the time, the market leader was actually Ericsson from Sweden. Even Ericsson started to feel the effects of Huawei. Where they were long established, you started to see them being slowly but surely being replaced by Huawei. By the time that the 3G era was firm, then you saw complete swap out of Ericsson infrastructure, complete disappearance of Motorola, and now the dominance of Huawei. That has continued during the 4G era, and it has also, it seems, it's going to continue even during the 5G era. Now, why would the likes of these Chinese firms like Huawei become dominant? For one reason or the other, yes, maybe in the beginning they maybe practiced, copying other people's solutions. However, they started to invest heavily in research and development, such that they now started to innovate on their own, to the point where they then became leaders, not just commercially, but also leaders in innovation. And then the likes of Motorola then, really started to disappear, to the point where I would be very surprised if there's still any network operator around the world that is still using Motorola equipment. The two players now, it's Huawei as the dominant player, followed by Ericsson. That's really the typical pattern around the world. So I would expect them that maybe, some countries like the US would not necessarily be happy to see how the picture changed that way. Yes.
All right. Now, you have given me a very clear understanding. Now, I just want to also quote from the same article I was reading earlier, still on the issue of 5G. Professor Adam Finn, who's a professor of pediatrics in the University of Bristol, he said, radio waves involved in 5G and other mobile phone technology sit on the low frequency end of the electromagnetic spectrum. Less powerful than visible light, they are not strong enough to damage cells, unlike radiation at the higher frequency end of the spectrum, which includes sun's rays or even medical x-rays. So he then said it would be impossible for 5G to transmit the virus. All right. So this is just another, top scientist in the world who was basically trying to say this conspiracy theory has got no, basis. Another, top person from the UK as well, a medical director, Stephen Powis, he said the conspiracy theories have been branded the worst kind of fake news. All right. So that's what he said. He said, this, which we've been reading, is the worst kind of fake news, all right? But scientists say the idea of a connection between COVID-19 and 5G is complete rubbish and biologically impossible. So,
Yes,
which then, this is what these top global scientists and researchers, they are actually backing the finding by that health and safety body that you mentioned. So the question then is, why do people still believe the pseudoscience that seems to be behind the stuff that is shared on the, on the other areas? There is a gentleman who sent me a question that I should ask to you, but he was talking about vaccines for COVID-19 that have been, that have some digital something, Now, I basically disputed that. In fact, not even disputed, I didn't even entertain it, because there is no vaccine as we speak for COVID-19. So already, if you are talking about a vaccine for COVID-19 that has been manipulated digitally, then already you are just peddling something that is not there. So, but I think there was one question that he had, but I've not managed to read it through, because I wanted you to just answer that question for me before you actually finish your crossing with us. Because for me, it is these kinds of things that cause confusion. All right. He said, can he elaborate, that is you, can you elaborate a bit on the radiation from the 4G network on our cell phones that causes infertility in males if they keep the phones in their pockets? And how harmful is it to newborn babies if the phone is kept near their heads? I'm sure you've answered it, but just specific to it.
Yes. I think what I've already indicated was that the safety guidelines by the ICNIRP, which is the body called the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, ICNIRP, what I've indicated that they've got safety guidelines, right? They're called guidelines for limiting exposure to electromagnetic fields between 100 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz, right? That's what the latest study is all about. Now, these guidelines are not saying that electromagnetic radiation does not have harmful effects. Rather, they are saying if you follow the safety guidelines such that your exposure is within what the guidelines indicate, then you can be rest assured that you will not experience harmful effects. Now, if you take a cell phone and you put it in your pocket, right, as a male, obviously that is not within the safety guidelines. Fair enough, maybe the people don't necessarily know what the safety guidelines are, but it would help that they can perhaps go to the website of ICNIRP and download those safety guidelines, because they are not just for operational people on the ground rolling out networks, but they're also for users to just see what are the safety guidelines all about. So there will be certain behaviors that violate the safety guidelines. And so once you do that, you are no longer within the safety zone of not being negatively affected. So what I'm trying to say is that much as perhaps there's been no study to see what are the effects of a man putting a cell phone on his pocket for, let's say, 3 hours or whatever. Maybe there's been no study to study that as to how does it affect his fertility. However, such kind of a behavior is obviously not within the safety guidelines. You are supposed to limit your exposure to cell phone radiation according to what the guidelines are all about. I cannot summarize the guidelines because they are quite in depth. That's why I'm saying it will help for people to go to the ICNEP website and actually download the 2020 guidelines. You will see that, yes.
No, continue.
No, I was just going to summarize and say, you will see that the guidelines are not saying that the radiation cannot be harmful. However, it just says if you follow the guidelines and stay within the safety zone of using devices that have got radiation, you are then safe. That's what the guidelines are saying. They're not saying radiation is not harmful. They are not saying that at all.
Yeah, his question was, okay, the one that I spoke about, why is the digital ID injected to us as part of the coronavirus vaccine? And why are we not told that it's included in the vaccine? So I dismissed that really out of hand because there is no vaccine at this point. So why do you even entertain an issue of a digital ID injection when there is no vaccine? As we speak today, there's no vaccine for COVID-19. Yes, there's a number of researchers in different parts of the world that are trying to come up with a vaccine. But as we speak, there is no vaccine that is being given, that has been authorized for use in humans. So it also proves that, people need to be able to assimilate information with a little bit of interrogation and understanding of what they're talking about, because you can't even begin to answer something like that where there is actually no vaccine, about COVID-19. So I think we will continue to have these kind of things where people peddle information that is not necessarily based in real science. Yes, it may be based in pseudoscience, a little bit of truth here, bending it with a little bit of lies there. But the bottom line is that there is no scientific, proof, proper science now that links COVID-19 and 5G. End of the story.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you. Yes, I would just wish that people can interrogate the information that they receive and cross-check it against, from sources that are reputable, because some of these claims, they can be actually so difficult to dispute simply because the claims that they make are scientifically baseless. Now, how do you dispute something that is scientifically baseless? It's extremely difficult, So I would just wish that people, before they entertain information of the sort, just look at what do established reputable authorities say about such things. And kind of lay to rest if it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago in the UK, specifically in London, a place called Birmingham, and another one, I've just forgotten the name. I mean, there was a banning of the 5G, towers because people believed, in these conspiracy theories. So it can actually be a very dangerous thing to act on half-baked information.
Yes, but I would say it will come to pass in the same way that people were making such noises during the 2G era, but today we have not even had one credible case of somebody who has actually caught cancer due to exposure to cell phone radiation from the towers. Not even one. That was in the 1990s, but people will still continue to peddle such, such baseless information. We just need to make sure that we learn to dismiss things that don't make sense.
Yes. Now, we've gone a little bit over the time. I think I need to bring this conversation. It was an interesting one, a bit technical at the beginning, especially for minds that are over the age of 50 like mine, that are battling with grasping new concepts, but I was able to follow you. So thank you very much, Ezorayo. You know, you have helped me in terms of helping to clear my mind. I hope you've helped other people who are viewing this, you know, conversation, and hopefully people, you know, will look at reputable sources, you know, when they get information, and not just believe, you know, and not just believe what is being peddled out there, because that form of pseudoscience can have very, very negative, you know, effects, you know, and we don't need that. We need to focus on COVID and deal with COVID and deal with it, and make sure that it's history. Now, these side shows about 5Gs causing COVID really do not help the fight against the pandemic. So thank you for your time. And just one question, was you know, I'm crossing to you, Usetabase, you know, in our ancestral home, Mthat. Is there any social distancing there? You know, do people understand this COVID-19 thing? Has there been any public health education there, Emakaya? Or, you know, I'm just being opportunistic now to ask you that question.
Yes. Well, I from time to time, I do use public transportation to travel, for instance, you know, between home and town. So one does then get an opportunity to hear what people think about this whole COVID-19 story and the reality of it. I have to say that I think people are aware. They are aware. The message is not going above their heads. They are aware of it. But I think the issue is about people being willfully ignorant. That is, they receive the information, however, they don't want to take it seriously. I'll give an example. I mean, in one of those taxi rides, where, you know, a lady was coming to ride onto the taxi wearing his mask, her face mask. She was coming to ride with the taxi, but now, before she could even step into the taxi, she was told to take that thing off because you are bringing this thing to the taxi. Now, the person who would make a statement like that, it's clear that they have an understanding of what COVID-19 is. They have an understanding of what the face masks and the gloves are used for. However, willfully, they decide that they shall not have it implemented in their taxi. You see, so we have that problem of willful ignorance. So I think that is the part that really scares me. But the message is coming through. I think social distancing, by and large, it's also it is being practiced. I think mostly due to people maybe being scared of actually being finding themselves on the wrong side of the law. But in terms of taking it seriously, the danger that it poses, I don't think it is there yet.
Yeah, thank you for that. Continue doing the good work through your foundation that is trying to empower the young people with math, science, and you know, technology. That ideathon thing that you put around there in Umtata, we need more of that, because people need to understand that the future is with technology, and with people like you who are sacrificing their time and making them see that to get into the 4IR era, you need maths, you need science, and you need exposure to technology. So keep doing the good work, my brother, and I look forward to seeing, you know, that foundation growing. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
So I just want to thank the viewers as well. I nearly switched off without thanking you guys. Thank you very much for your time.